Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Buts About It. That's my announcer voice. Um, Hopefully, you all like it. I've been working on it. But today, we are going to be talking about the Steelers. We got some NFL rule changes, and mainly the replacement refs are the big story of the day today. Of course, we will have X open. So if Adam Schefter tweets any breaking news while we were live, we'll report it right here first. Let's see who we've got in the chat right now. We got Chris Vikings, who always starts off the show with Skull Vikings. I don't know if I agree with that, but good to have you here, Chris. He also says he has breaking news. I'm willing to bet it's going to be some sort of April Fool's joke where he says something like Joe Burrow is getting traded to the Vikings. So I'm not going to play the sounder for that because he's done that like every episode for the last month. So, but if we do have breaking news, we will have a sounder. He said, if we get replacement refs, this season is gonna suck. Well, let's get right into some of the rule changes. Let's talk about some of that, and then we'll talk about replacement refs because replacement refs are part of the rule changes. So, first of all, this is not an exhaustive graphic here. These are the rule changes that I thought would impact fans' viewership the most. So this is not like you can go and look up what the competition committee did on Tuesday and see what else they did. There's a lot of things with like front office stuff, that type of thing. But these are the three that I think are going to be the most noticeable. So the first one is that teams can now declare an onside kick at any time. Nothing too exciting there. They're still trying to figure out the kickoff rules, but basically before you had to be behind, and I believe you could only call it in the second half. You had to declare. Now you can declare an onside kick whenever you want. The other thing is, and I think this is the primary issue with this rule, is that you have to declare it. So you can't have a surprise onside kick anymore. They're trying to get player safety involved here, and I obviously agree. Like, we want our players to be safe, but at the same time, part of the beauty of the onside kick was that it was a surprise. Like, it's a risky play anyway. And now you take away the surprise, and there's like really no point in doing it unless you're extremely desperate. But that's a rule change for the competition committee has approved. The other one that's kind of a biggish deal. I don't know how often we actually saw this, but it does close a loophole. So there was a loophole where, so say there was a personal foul penalty and a team was kicking off from the 50. It was actually more advantageous for a team to kick the ball out of bounds than it was to kick a touchback. So the competition committee obviously eliminated that because you don't want to award penalties. So instead of, I believe it was the 35-yard line it would have been on, they can now, it's now pushed back to like the 20-yard line. But basically closing a loophole, again, don't know how often we ran into that situation, but now we're closing it just so it doesn't become an issue. And what did he say? Bengals are going to make the playoffs next season. April Fools. Yeah, see, I told y'all he was going to say something like that. But the big rule change, this one I think is going to be the most noticeable, the most problematic, if you will. That is for 1 year, and the teams are kind of setting up for replacement refs, it appears. So if you haven't been following, the NFL Referees Association and the NFL have been in a contract dispute, and they have not come to an agreement. They have not come really close to any sort of agreement. It sounds like the owners really want there to be some sort of, I guess, way for them to improve refereeing or officiating, and the association doesn't want that for some reason. I know fans want that. I don't know specifically what the owners are asking, but essentially this rule would allow the NFL officiating department in New York to correct clear and obvious mistakes made by on-field officials that impact the game. This also this is a separate rule, but it's kind of all included here. This is a permanent rule. If so, the reason this rule got created was because of the DK Metcalf situation, if you remember, where he kind of swiped at a Lions fan. I don't know if we ever officially said it was a punch. Kind of looked like a punch, but we'll go with what the legalese says. Anyway, that wasn't seen by the on-field officials, but they saw it on the replay. So the second part of this rule would be that if so in New York they see something that warrants an ejection that the on-field refs don't see, they would be able to call that in and either make that ejection, or they would be able to say like, hey, wait, don't eject this player. This other thing happened. So that could be good because, we see a lot of situations where, there's fighting and usually the second guy gets ejected, not the guy who initiated it. So we'll see how that goes. That could go really well. That could go horribly. But let's get into this rule change of kind of setting up for replacement refs, with New York having a lot more pull on the game than in just the on-field refs. So if you don't remember the last time we had replacement refs, it was in 2012. And this image kind of has gone down in history as the image for all things involving replacement refs. So this was a play in which then rookie quarterback Russell Wilson on the Seahawks threw up a Hail Mary against the Packers, and Golden Tate was the target. I believe MJ Jennings was covering Tate, and it appeared that Tate pushed off of Jennings. However, that was not called, so that was OPI. And then it appeared that both Jennings and Tate caught the ball. So we've got one referee here ruling it a touchdown. We've got another ruling it a touchback based on who they said caught it. What they ended up saying was it was a contested catch that went to Tate and allowed the Seahawks to win the game. Now, the problem with this is if the Packers had caught the ball, or if the ball had fallen incomplete, they would have won the game. And the officials in New York later said that this should have been OPI on Golden Tate. Golden Tate should not have been given this touchdown, and the Packers should have won the game. And Las Vegas at the time said $330 million changed hands on this play right here, based on the money line between the Packers and Seahawks. And I just can't imagine what imagine. And that was back in 2012. Sports gambling was not legal in a lot of places. It was not as prominent. It certainly wasn't as advertised as much as it is now. This could easily be a $1 billion mistake in today's NFL gambling world. And that is something that the NFL cannot, that's not something that Roger Goodell can have sleeping at night, especially with as many gambling sponsors that are out there with the NFL. So it just is something that I'm sure the NFL in the next few months is going to be really pushing for the league and for the association to get figured out. But right now it's just not there. Chris said, can we get full-time refs instead of part-time refs? Yeah, I think we do need full-time refs. And I actually went to a talk a few years ago, 2 years ago, I think, where Sarah Thomas was speaking at a community college near me for part of their speaker series. And the work they put in behind the scenes is impressive. Like, I didn't think about it. They watch film. They're constantly communicating. They're basically practicing similar to the players in a lot of ways. So I do think they deserve to be full-time, get full-time pay, do whatever you need to improve the game, right? That should be the league's job or goal. And he also said, I did personally like the call as a Vikings fan, but as a fan of the NFL, it's got to be fixed. Yeah, it's really easy to say when a team you don't like gets screwed, but then when it's your team, that's what sucks. So the replacement refs, the CBA ends on May 31st. So if a deal is not struck before then, they'll enter into a lockout, and the NFL will essentially be hiring people who are not NFL caliber officials to officiate preseason and possibly regular season games. They've already supposedly, reportedly, been gathering names of college officials who could possibly come in and officiate NFL games. And you might say, well, college is similar to the NFL. Yes, but there's a lot of nuances between the two sports. There's a lot of differences, small things that you may not notice as the casual fan, but they become very, very prominent when they're screwed up. And so having professional full-time officials, I agree, would be the biggest benefit for the NFL. It would be the biggest benefit for Vegas. It'd be the biggest benefit for these owners who have stakes in these teams, obviously. And of course, it's the biggest benefit for fans, which is who we care about the most here on this show. However, I do have some issues with the new rule. I don't like the phrase clear and obvious. The NFL uses this phrase a lot in their rules, it feels like. And it often things that fans declare are clear and obvious, the NFL does not declare as clear and obvious. So I would be curious as to that's supposed to, I would say it's specifically vague. Like clear and obvious sounds very specific, but when you think about it, it's very subjective. So like, what do you consider clear? What I might consider clear and obvious may be different than what Chris Vikings considers clear and obvious. So we've got that issue. I think there's going to be an instance where we see the replacement refs make a call and the fans agree with it. Generally, they're like, yeah, that's the right call, even if it's against their team. And then at some point, New York's going to call and be like, hey, no. Walk that back. And this just opens up so many issues for whenever you enter more people into decision making, you get more factors, more variables, and you get more chances for accusations of cheating. In 2012, during the replacement refs era, there was an instance where a Saints fan was officiating a Saints game. So the more people you have kind of in this circle of what's supposed to be elite individuals in terms of officiating and their opinions and subjectivity, the more that kind of gets spread out, the more chances you have of screwing this up. And so I don't have a suggestion for how to better specify this or better improve this beyond just getting a deal done. But clear and obvious just seems vague to me, and I don't like that phrasing. I just feel like that's going to come and get us at some point. And we see it with replays already with challenges, right? A coach may challenge something and it's got to be clear and obvious to overturn it. But, fans will tell you, hey, that was clearly a catch, clearly not a catch, easiest call in the world. And the officials will still say, we don't know. So, and that's the pros. That's not even the replacements. Something else that is interesting is that staff in New York can call off flags for twisting, intentional grounding, horse collar tackles, illegal contact. In specific instances, they can call it off for pass interference, and they can also call off disqualifications. So if a replacement ref, overreacts or something and tries to disqualify a player, then New York may call in and be like, hey, no, wait, dude, just calm down. It's okay. But also, these more subjective instances where you have, holding can get kind of subjective. Pass interference is super subjective. Intentional grounding, for whatever reason, has become subjective. There's just a lot of, subjectivity in a lot of these calls, unfortunately. Chris Viking says, I still personally don't know what an NFL catch is. Yeah, I don't either. Going back to Calvin Johnson, going back to Des Bryant, I'm sure there's a long list of just question marks. That Bills weird play with the Bills and Brandon Cooks, that whole thing. When you're having issues of subjectivity and league explanations with the pros, the guys who are doing this week in and week out, and now you're entering if I'm the NFL, I want to avoid as few variables as possible when it comes to officiating. I don't want there to be any question about the fandom of the officials. I don't want there to be any question of subjectivity in calls. You know, we saw an official, was it 2 years ago, who asked Mike Evans for his autograph, and that was a huge thing. So I just can see, you know, the replacement refs getting excited, getting, you know, like, hey, I remember officiating this guy in college. Like, he was really nice to me that one time. And then they get a little lenient with the calls in the NFL. And of course, you know, that happens in the NFL, I'm sure, with regular officials, but it's more consistent, if that makes sense. Because that person is consistently officiating games. I mean, humans are naturally going to have a bias. And that's why you see coaches and players, and they're always like, you know, rubbing elbows with the officials, trying to get friendly, trying to get good calls. You see that in all sports. But I don't think the NFL is wanting to have, you know, 50 guys kind of all out there on field. And that's not even including, you know, people, the replay officials and such. But it looks like that's the route we're going. The other interesting thing about this replacement ref rule is it sets up the precedent of replay review. So we've seen some instances a few years ago where they tried to make pass interference a replayable or a reviewable penalty. That obviously did not go well. But I think we are going to slowly kind of see the NFL look at that again, look at that as a possibility. And we've seen the NFL kind of lean into technology more and more. I don't know how they would do that necessarily with pass interference, but it does kind of indicate if they're willing to do this with the replacement officials. And let's say it goes super well. Let's just say, like, hey, we nailed all these calls. We fixed them all. You know, they were called wrong. We fixed it with the replay assist. I think that the NFL could lean into that more, and we could see them try to make things like holding a reviewable penalty. Now, will fans like that? Will they hate that? Some fans are going to say, no, it slows down the game. Other fans are going to say, that's fine. Let's just, you know, get the calls right. Getting the calls right is more important than the speed of the game. However, when you talk about the speed of the game, you also get into another interesting conversation of, you know, TV licensing. So if you're let's say CBS is licensed to have one primetime game at 4:30 Eastern time. But, you know, because the 1:00 game went over, they don't get that primetime game because Fox's game still has an hour into their primetime coverage. You could get into those sort of TV licensing issues just with and where you have to like hit that window. Also with advertisers, that type of thing. That's something NASCAR has been running into with, like, when do we play commercials? Because cautions seem to be taking too long. We don't want to run them during green flag, obviously. Like, so there's that. But I don't know what the NFL is planning for that. I'm not in those meetings, obviously, not yet. But I just think there's a precedent here that could be established, and we should watch this season very carefully, especially in the preseason. Assuming they do get a deal done in the regular season, just kind of see how that review goes. I think expedited review went really well. Personally, I enjoyed it as a fan. You know, there were some times where it took a little longer, but it wasn't terrible in my opinion. And they were able to correct some calls quickly without a coach having to throw a challenge flag. And if you can do that, awesome. That's great. Let's see more of that. Because I'm in the opinion that I want the game to be called correctly as a fan. And yeah, I don't want games to be 5 hours long, but, you know, I also want them to be correct. I don't want them to be wrong. So that's part of it. There's a balance there that needs to be reached by the NFL, by the NFL Referees Association. And we'll see if they can get that done. All right. Got some Minute Maid lemonade here. Not sponsored, but it's pretty good. Although it's 150 calories, which sucks. Liquids aren't supposed to have calories in my mind, but that's okay. Anyway, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. So right now, we know for sure that Mason Rudolph and Will Howard will be on the roster for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2026 season. However, Aaron Rodgers is being Aaron Rodgers and is kind of being vague about whether or not he'll return. He had said last year that this would be his last season, or that would be his last season. He was going to retire. He was all done. But then the Steelers played pretty well. And they brought in his former head coach, Mike McCarthy. They were together in Green Bay, won a Super Bowl together. They also traded for Michael Pittman Jr., seemed to build up that team a little bit, get him some weapons. It definitely seems like the Rooneys and Amar Khan are trying to entice Rodgers into coming back, into, returning. They don't have an answer at the quarterback position yet. And Art Rooney said that he has not talked to Aaron Rodgers. He has not been in communication with Aaron Rodgers. However, Mike McCarthy has been. He's been talking to him a lot. What does that mean for Will Howard? What does that mean for Mason Rudolph? Well, Mike McCarthy may have accidentally given that away during the league meetings this week. He said something along the lines of, we have some great quarterbacks. We have Will Howard. Will Howard is going to have a great opportunity to listen and learn from Aaron Rodgers, which he had last year. He was a rookie last year. But does that mean Aaron Rodgers is coming back? Art Rooney didn't say yes or no. Mike McCarthy didn't say yes or no explicitly. He just leaned into it. Art Rooney said he expects to have the answer by the draft, which is really early for Aaron Rodgers, considerably. Aaron Rodgers is usually making these decisions well into OTAs. He likes the drama. He likes to be the face, the person people are talking about on Twitter. But the Steelers may be saying, "Hey, look, dude, you got to tell us by the draft because we need to fill your spot somehow." But even after Mike McCarthy, and considering all the things Mike McCarthy said about Aaron Rodgers in that meeting, in that same press conference, he had some statements on Will Howard that I thought were interesting. So Will Howard was a 6th-round pick last season out of Ohio State. He also went to Kansas State, won a national championship with Ohio State. Mike McCarthy said, if I was drafting players that year, 2025, he, referring to Howard, wouldn't be around in the 5th or 6th round. I valued him higher than that. Now, it's important to note, Mike McCarthy and Will Howard, to my knowledge, have not crossed paths before. This is their first time, being there. But Will Howard has obviously put up college film at Ohio State. Mike McCarthy has film from practices that they ran last year. And Mike McCarthy even said, I think he's a real prospect as a starting quarterback. So he's kind of, in my mind, this is Mike McCarthy, saying, hey, Rodgers might be back, but he's also aware that that might not be the case. So he doesn't want to diminish Will Howard. We know what Mason Rudolph is. Mason Rudolph has been in the league for a long time. We know kind of he's a pretty good backup. He can go out there and win you a game or two. Will Howard is kind of this unknown in the NFL. There's a lot of fans that may have forgotten about him. And Will Howard had a lot of good promise coming off of Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State's a fantastic program. The reason he fell, though, is because his isolation when it came to his eyes. His eyes, if you watch his film, he will immediately look to one side of the field and he'll stay there. So if he has a receiver over here, that guy is not getting looked at. That is not a read. He doesn't go through his progressions. He usually takes the first or second read. He is able to, get away from pass rushers. He's shown an ability to use his legs a little bit. He has a decent arm. It's not amazing. It's not a Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson type cannon, but he can be accurate. He can be decisive. But in the NFL, when you isolate yourself off from an entire half of the field, defenders are going to watch that, and defenders are quicker and twitchier than they are in college. Now, I would be really interested to see Will Howard in the preseason. And I want to see if sitting behind Rodgers, sitting behind Mason Rudolph, even though he was injured, if he's been able to develop that ability to, kind of scan the entire field. Because if Will Howard can scan the entire field, if he can toss off defenders with his eyes, or kind of, just be a little bit more tricky with his eyes, with his motions, and not telecast those movements so quick or so dramatically, I think he could actually be a really good quarterback. I think I agree with Mike McCarthy here. If Will Howard improves in that situation where he is able to become, just better at reading defenses, really, that's what it comes down to. And that's an intelligence thing. That's a football IQ thing. That's something you can learn. That's not something like his height or other physical attributes that may be harder to change. This is just, learning the game. And if he's able to do that, if he's able to get comfortable in the pocket, I could see Will Howard being a really good quarterback in the NFL. Is he going to be Aaron Rodgers level? Probably not. Is he going to, be Joe Burrow level? Josh Allen? Probably not. But could he be a mid-range starter? I think so. But he's got to get away from, staring down his receiver or allowing, the entire defense to drift to one side of the field, because that's the only way he's looking. Because every time he plays, he turns to this side. And so all the safeties and corners are going to leverage to the other side of the field. They're just going to follow him. You can't do that. So we'll see what happens. Let me know. Do you think Will Howard has a future? Those of you who have watched him, I think we need to see how he's developed. How has he grown as a player in the NFL? Has he continued to improve? Has he taken the time to improve? He seems like he's got a lot of potential. He fell to that 6th round. Last year's quarterbacks were really weird the way they fell. I thought Tyler Shuck would go after Shedeur Sanders. We all thought Shedeur Sanders was going to go, be a top 1st round pick. He didn't. He fell. Dylan Gabriel went in the 3rd round, which I don't think anyone was expecting. Shuck went in the 2nd, I believe. Jackson Dart, obviously, which I loved Jackson Dart, and I think Jackson Dart showed he can be a really good player in his rookie year. But, last year's quarterback draft was weird. This one's going to be weird as well. Fernando Mendoza did have his pro day today, and he looked really good. I don't think he had a single incompletion based on the reports I read. So that's really promising for Raiders fans. But I don't know that I would write off Will Howard yet. And we have a bad tendency as fans that if a player doesn't start their rookie year, we just kind of assume that they're not that good, especially quarterbacks. We tend to, just forget about them. And then, they come in their 2nd or 3rd season and light it up and go crazy. And we're like, whoa, where did this guy come from? It's like, well, he's always been there. Like, go look at his college tape. But if I'm Will Howard, that's what I would really be focusing on, is how can I avoid from telling the defense where I'm going to go with my eyes? Get twitchy with your eyes. And part of that is instinctual, right? Because you're going to naturally look to where you want to throw, but you also have to just learn to either do that really quick or, see them, know where they're going to be, and then take your eyes off that and make the throw. So it's difficult. It is hard to learn, but he had one of the best guys to teach him in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is really good at that. Aaron Rodgers is really good at opening the field. Obviously he's a Hall of Famer. So, and Aaron Rodgers has already mentored like Jordan Love, and Jordan Love has done great. I think, I don't know that he's top 5, but I think he's fairly in the top 10 range. Right. So, if Will Howard is able to develop that, I think he could be a threat, to the NFL secondary level. Let's see here. So we got any news? Make sure we're not missing anything here before we move on. The NFL is expected to select the Ravens as the opponent to face the Cowboys in Rio de Janeiro. Well, okay, cool. Interesting. Okay, let's look at 5th-year options. So quarterback, these are in order that they were drafted in 2022. These are fifth-year options that have been picked up. This does not mean that they will not be extended. As you can see, Jackson Smith and Jigba, we know that he's already been extended, but his fifth-year option was picked up to help them kind of spread out that cap space. These are all first-round picks, obviously. So quarterback Bryce Young, cornerback Devon Witherspoon, who we know the Seahawks do want to extend, edge Will McDonald, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who we just spoke about, wide receiver Jordan Addison with the Vikings. Chris, Vikings, if you're in here still, let us know what you think about Jordan Addison. Is he a fifth-year option? Kind of see if we want to extend him, or is this a fifth-year option, possibly a trade type situation? I know Vikings fans kind of go both ways. Tight end Dalton Kincaid, who Kincaid has been so good, but he's got those injury issues. He hasn't necessarily been super reliable. When he's on the field, he's awesome though. And then offensive tackle Anton Harrison with the Jaguars. James Gladstone, their GM, said that they're going to pick up his fifth-year option. And so I think the two most interesting, or maybe three, we can maybe throw Kincaid in on this too. But I think Bryce Young, Devon Witherspoon, and Dalton Kincaid are the most interesting to me. And Jordan, I keep adding people. We'll add Jordan Addison too. But Devon Witherspoon, we're just kind of waiting for his extension. I think that's kind of interesting. They're probably going to do a similar thing to what they did with JSN and extend him, use the fifth-year option as a cap hit kind of thing. And it's not a bad thing if we're picking up fifth-year options. The Bengals picked up Jamar Chase's fifth-year option. As we just said, JSN's fifth-year option was picked up. So it's not a nail in the coffin or anything, or indicative of how a team feels about a player. Kincaid, injuries, just an issue. And then Bryce Young, I think, is probably the most fascinating, not only because he's a quarterback, but also because he was the first overall pick. And we're kind of still questioning what we know about him, right? As a player. He looked really good last year, but leading up to that, he didn't look as great. Dave Canales has definitely improved him. And this fifth-year option, it could be a make or break year for Bryce Young. Do we know if he's going to be the future of the Carolina Panthers? I think that there's a chance. I think he's got a really good shot. If he comes out and they improve on their season from last year, I think he probably gets extended. Now, what he makes is a different question. Is he going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? That's the trend we see. And, results don't always equal pay. Dak Prescott and Trevor Lawrence are two of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And they aren't, top. I think we could all fairly say that they're not top quarterbacks in the league. I think you'd put Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, Jackson above them. And I'm pretty sure Lawrence and Dak are paid more than all those guys, although there have been some restructured contracts, so I could be mistaken there. But my point is, I don't know that the Panthers are totally set on Bryce Young yet. I think they're leaning that way. I think that they really, really want Bryce Young to be the guy, but they just don't know yet. And they're going to get him some help, hopefully. They got him some help last year. They're going to hopefully continue to improve that team. I think the Panthers have a shot to really kind of shock some people in the league with that weak NFC South. We could see them make some moves. They made some moves last year, about 50%, won about 50% of their games. So, pick up one or two more wins in that weak NFC South, and you could easily make the playoffs. You could easily win the division. Chris Vikings on Jordan Addison. Trade Addison. He is a cancer off the field and don't want to pull a Bengals paying top dollar for two wide receivers that have no defense. Yeah, I would say where the Vikings are a bit different than the Bengals is you guys don't currently have a quarterback. I mean, I know you're in on McCarthy, but I don't think you have a quarterback who's like the future. Like, he's the future, if that makes sense. Like, McCarthy can be the future. Kyler Murray could be the future, but neither one are on contracts long-term that are indicative of them being the franchise, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Maybe Kevin O'Connell has a completely different view. I will say, and I've said this before, I'll continue to say this. I will continue to shout it from the rooftops. I've made videos on it. The reason the Bengals don't have a defense is not because of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. It has absolutely nothing to do with their contracts. The reason the Bengals don't have a good defense is because they think they're better than they are. That's true. The Vikings had a top 5 defense. You lost some guys too, though. There's going to be some change going on there. Still have Brian Flores, which is big, and still have like Dallas Turner and some of those younger guys. But it'll be interesting to see how that you guys adjust. But the Bengals don't have for whatever reason, their front office doesn't have the common sense to say, hey, we screwed up. They will not do that. They maybe behind the scenes, but publicly and through their moves, they do not do that for whatever reason. I think that paying Trey would have been a mistake. But the Bengals have been nowhere near the cap hit. The cap's like going over the cap. They've never, run out of money to spend. They just don't spend it. They love to roll over. I think it's about 5 to 10 million every year in cap. Even though the cap has consistently gone up like 30 million every year. So that's annoying. Free agency last year, they didn't really do anything at all. They completely rebuilt through the draft, and that is really irritating. I made a video talking about the Bengals draft problems earlier this week. And when you go into the draft with clear holes, it causes you to reach. And we saw that happen last year. We knew that the Bengals wanted to improve their defensive line last year. It looked like they wanted Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan went to the Cardinals. Seemed like they freaked out. They ended up taking Shamar Stewart. Now, could Shamar Stewart develop into someone awesome? Maybe. But we saw this year that they wanted to improve that again. They ended up getting Boye Mafe, which I think is a great signing. But they haven't gotten their Joseph Asai replacement, their rotational edge piece. Can Shamar Stewart become that piece? Possibly. I don't know. That's the thing. We are currently betting on unknowns, and I don't want to bet on unknowns. I want to bet on knowns. Same thing at the linebacker position. People give Zach Taylor flack for this, but he doesn't build the roster. Zach Taylor isn't going to come out here and say, yeah, Barrett Carter sucks. He isn't. He's going to say, hey, Barrett Carter's our starting linebacker right now, and he's improved, and I like where we're at. Because he can't say Barrett Carter sucks. And I don't think Barrett Carter sucks. I just think Barrett Carter isn't ready yet. And Barrett Carter needs a mentor. Demetrius Knight needs a mentor. And that's been my, cry from the rooftops. That's what I've been asking for the Bengals to do. And it has nothing to do with Jamar and T. They just, they hit a guy, late round pick like Chase Brown or something one time. And they're like, hey, look what we did. We can do this. We can get off on signing cheap people. That Trey Hendrickson free agency class was cheap, and it was relatively cheap. And it, got them to the Super Bowl. And so now they're going to point to that and be like, hey, look, we can do this. You can do that once in a blue moon, maybe. But until you can do that consistently, you can't make that your whole MO for building an NFL team. But that being said, Addison has had, I'll get off my soapbox here for a moment. Jordan Addison has had some issues off the field, unfortunately. A lot of issues off the field. Very talented wide receiver. And I do think you need someone who is respected by defenses if you have Justin Jefferson out there. So you're going to need a wide receiver too who's at least respected by other teams. Is Felton that guy? I don't know that Felton's that guy right now. I don't know that you want him as your wide receiver too. Who would be the Vikings wide receiver too if Addison left? Let's look at your guys' depth chart real quick. I don't have it memorized. I know a couple guys left, so that's why I'm kind of in the dark here. Deshaun Jones, it looks like. Ty Felton, it looks like would be your wide receiver 2. Deshaun Jones or Dante Fleming would be your wide receiver 3 then. See, that just, yes, you have Jefferson, But that wide receiver room does not scare me at all. You could draft someone. If you draft someone, that's totally, because that changes things. And this wide receiver draft class is very deep. You should do a live PFF mock draft. Let's see here. Hang on. Should we do this? Let's do a surprise. You just want to do you want it to be first round? I could do a first round mock draft maybe. I don't want to do one I haven't researched the Vikings enough to do a full 7 round. Let's do a first round. Let's see what we can do here. Do I have to pick a team? I don't want to pick a team. I want to do all the teams. I guess I can select all the teams maybe. Is that what I have to do? That's really dumb. Oh, wait. They had a plan for that. Wow, PFF. Thank you. Okay, hang on. I push for signing DeAndre Hopkins. Also, first round is good. Okay, so we got about 17 minutes here. Let's do let me present this. Make sure. Share screen. Sorry, guys. This was thrown onto me at the last minute. So I didn't plan to do that this week. We're going to do it in the future. Okay, can everyone see the screen? I think I'm going to be frozen if we do it like this. Okay, let's do it like this. Okay, start draft. So first off on the clock, we're not going to do any trades. We're not going to overcomplicate anything. I think we all agree Fernando Mendoza is going first overall to the Vikings, right? So I think we can safely say that. So, okay, New York Jets. Now the Jets get interesting. They could go a couple different routes. I think it was pretty clear that they wanted Dante Moore, but Dante Moore has pulled out. I've seen them go David Bailey. I've seen them go with Mauagoa, whose name I continue to mispronounce. I personally think that based on the types of guys they have signed, it looks like they want to go into a 3-4 defense. And so I'm going to go, Arvell Reese, because it looks like they want to go heavier on the linebacker position. So I would go there, I think. They could go a couple different ways, though. I doubt they go quarterback here, because Ty Simpson I don't think is worthy of the second round pick, despite what Dan Orlovsky says. Cardinals are another really interesting one. This is someone I've sat down with, the Cardinal rule. We've done mock drafts with them. I had them taking a tackle because they're kind of in that bridge year with Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. Whether they're the future, I know that they really Cardinals fans really want Ruben Bain Jr. too. I think where the Cardinals are right now, you could take any of these 3 guys. Bailey has reportedly got some anger issues that Monty Ossenfort and the Cardinals may want to stay away from. I really feel like they're going to go with tackle. But again, there's a lot of really good low premium position players in this draft. That's the hardest part. I mean, you've got Jeremiah Love here who could go top 10, and he's a running back. We haven't seen that in years. Who are the Titans running backs right now? Is it still just Tony Pollard? This is a really weird draft. And that's what I said. Last year's draft was weird. They got Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, and they signed Michael Carter today. Because of that, who's their edge? Some of these teams we don't talk about them as much, so I'm not as familiar. They signed John Franklin Myers and then Jermaine Johnson they traded for. Ooh. They don't have a lot of depth behind that, though. I'm going to give them David Bailey. I think David Bailey's a guy who I expect Ruben Bain Jr. could fall just because of his issues with his arms. That may scare some teams away. It may not. Some teams are really worried about the length of his arms. New York Giants, they're not going to take Jeremiah Love. They could take Sonny Styles, could take Caleb Downs. Ooh, what do we got? I haven't memorized all the rosters yet either with all the free. I'm going to go, they've got Malik Neighbors, but behind that, they don't really have anyone. This may be a bit of a hot take. I'm going to go Carnell Tate. Quarterback, wide receiver, guard. It sucks for the Browns that they signed 2 quarterbacks last year, and that's still their primary need. But again, I don't see that being a wide receiver round 1 issue. I'm going to get a terrible grade on this because I'm not going with their needs at all here. I'm going to go, just being objective, I would hate if this happens, but Sonny Styles with Carson Schwessinger would be insane. They lost JOK. Looks like he's going to have to medically retire, unfortunately. Let's see, Jeremiah Love. Let's send him to the Commanders. And if you're looking at this is the first one I've done, and if you're saying this is an awful mock draft, just know that that's why. New Orleans Saints. I'll go Reuben Bain Jr. to the Saints. I could see that. Now the Chiefs. The Chiefs need to redo their secondary. And they would do this. They would do this to the Bengals. They would steal Caleb Downs right before the Bengals pick. So now we get to the Bengals, who I've done the most mocks with. Delane, and this is honestly a pretty realistic way that this could fall. Mansour Delane at corner, really great player. Jermaine McCoy is also a really good player here. But I think that safety is a bigger need than corner for the Bengals right now in the first round. And I really like Dylan Thieneman. People haven't been considering him an option for the Bengals. I'm going to take Dylan Thieneman because he had a really, really good combine, and I think could be a really, really good player. Delane, yes, fantastic player, but the safety depth worries me for the Bengals. So I'm going to take Thieneman. Hot take, I know. Let's see here. Miami Dolphins. They brought in Malik Willis and then traded all their weapons. Kind of a similar situation to what the Cardinals are in. Malik Willis probably isn't the future quarterback there. Probably not Quinn Ewers either. They've had to move on from some offensive linemen. I took your guy. Was Thieneman your guy? I like Thieneman a lot. I'm going to say, let's go Mekhi Lemon. We'll get Malik Willis a weapon and whoever our future quarterback is there. Same thing with the Cowboys. The Cowboys need defense, and so I could see them taking Delane. Wide receiver, tackle, linebackers. Fano, I think, is going to be really good. I could see him falling here. Wide receiver, center guard, linebacker for the Ravens. They need that. Does he have? I don't know a lot about Oli Vega. Does he have experience playing center? Can I see that? Oh, there you go. No, he does not. Oh, he does. 17 snaps. Plays a little bit all over the line. We also know that they really need a good D line as well. They made some move. Oh, they did sign Trey Hendrickson though, obviously. So I'll go here. Tight end Sadiq. Learn behind Otten for a year. Jets are back up. McCoy's really good. He's just got some injury concerns. Would not be mad about him getting picked up at all. Detroit Lions, I think, go Freeling. They've taken, Tate Ratledge was a guard for the Bulldogs. They clearly like Georgia linemen. I could see them going that route easily. All right, Chris, let's look at where we are now. So what do you like here? So you got CJ Allen as the BPA, Jordan Tyson, Akeem Messador, who's not bad at all, EMW, another good safety. I know you like Avion Terrell as well. Not a bad player at all. So I'll let you pick for the Vikings. Or if you want to take a swing on a player, we can do that too. You have 30 seconds, probably less. Trade down is my first choice, but Terrell, since we stuck in pick. Okay. Yeah, no trades in this draft. So if that would be an option, obviously, in the real world, but we're not in the real world here. Okay, Panthers. Jordan Tyson. I think this is easy. Want to continue to get weapons for Bryce Young because we believe in him right now. CJ Allen, I think for the Cowboys, they traded for Logan Wilson and then they released Logan Wilson. That linebacker position has been a struggle. They do need to fix that D line, but D line's somewhat deep here in this draft. Steelers. Chuss isn't here, so we're going to kind of try to, I don't know what his thoughts are. I would be tempted to go safety, but that's not listed as one of their needs. I guess if we want to protect, looks like we need protection. Does Blake Miller have, what's his experience like? All at right tackle. Who's their right tackle? Is it still, do they still have, I can see his face. I can't imagine his name though. Broderick. No, not Broderick Jones. He's left tackle. Right tackle. Troy Futanu. Yeah, they're not. I don't like tackle. I don't want to go tackle. Let's go. It's not on here as one of their top needs, but I'm gonna take Messidor, because their D line is older. A lot of their defensive pass rushers are older. I think they need to retool there. And he's BPA right now. I think he's better than Falk as well. This isn't me like trying to do something, but I think you got to go BPA there. I think Messidor is better than what those tackles are going to bring for the Steelers. Feel free to disagree with me. I don't care. Chargers, Amar Cooper Jr. going wide receiver. I think that's an easy call. Philadelphia Eagles. They got to replace Reed Blankenship. I could see him going EMW. They could also, get someone later. Howie Roseman's a tricky GM, so he's hard to mock. Blake Miller. Browns need tackles. They need O-line, no matter who their quarterback is. So we need, let's see here. What does Cassius Howell bring to the table? Outside tackle, off ball, pass rush grade, really good pass rush win rate. Not a great run stopper. I think he's got, what's his stats look like? I know that Falk is like all potential, no stats. That's kind of what the worry with 12 sacks. Yeah, we're gonna go Howell over Falk. He's kind of like a Shamar Stewart. You don't think Cooper goes in the first? I think he will. I could be wrong, but I think he'll go in the first. I think there's enough teams that need wide receivers, and he's obviously coming off of that big IU season. I think he'll go late in the first. Maybe not as early as what I put him, but I think he'll go. Caden McDonald to the Bills. Retool that line. It's Caden Proctor. I like guys that are versatile on the line, if you can't tell. 49ers, Trent Williams is getting older, though. They're going to need a left tackle to learn behind him. Running back, center guard. Well, we're not taking a running back. Definitely, probably not taking a center guard. I don't like. We'll go D-line. Caleb Banks has some concerns. D'Amico Ryan might take. I could go Peter Woods or Caleb Banks here. I think the Peter Woods will go before Caleb Banks, though, so I'll go that route. Chiefs. I don't think that's right. I don't want to take a safety. I don't really like any of these. They may be forced to just go BPI here. We'll just go Falk. I didn't really like how that fell for them, which is fine. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't think Denzel Boston goes in the first. I mean, if Mark Cooper's not going in the first, then we definitely Denzel Boston's not going in the first, in my opinion. What wide receiver? Ooh, actually, I like Concepcion. I think he could go in the first over Denzel Boston. An anchor to the Patriots. Protect our guy, protect Drake May. And then Seahawks. So I need that running back, obviously. Edge. Could go TJ. We'll go TJ Parker. Get their Mafe replacement. Again, this is all just like, this isn't super researched at all. But here's our recap. We got Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders, Arvell Reese to the Jets, Francis Malagoa to the Cardinals, David Bailey to the Titans, Carnell Tate to the Giants, Styles to the Browns, Jeremiah Love to the Commanders, Ruben Bain Jr. to the Saints, Caleb Downs to the Chiefs, Dylan Thieneman to the Bengals, Mekhi Lemon to the Dolphins, Mansour Delane to the Cowboys, Spencer Fano to the Rams, Olivega Ioane to the Ravens, Kenyon Sadiq to the Buccaneers, Jermon McCoy to the Jets, courtesy of the Colts, Monroe Freeling to the Lions, Avion Terrell to the Vikings, Jordan Tyson to the Panthers, CJ Allen to the Cowboys, courtesy of the Packers, Akeem Misador to the Steelers, Amar Cooper Jr. to the Chargers, Emmanuel McNeil Warren to the Eagles, Blake Miller to the Browns, courtesy the Jacksonville Jaguars, Cassius Howell to the Bears, Caden McDonald to the Bills, Caden Proctor to the 49ers, Peter Woods to the Texans, and then courtesy of the LA Rams, the Chiefs get Keldrick Folk, courtesy of the Denver Broncos. The Dolphins get Casey Concepcion, and Patriots get Max Ionankor to protect Drake May. And then finally rounding out the first round, we have TJ Parker going to the Seahawks. Did they give me a grade? Usually there's a grade, but that might just be if you do teams. Let's save it. I don't know how much. We'll see how that kind of stacks up. But yeah. Let me know your thoughts on the draft down below, I guess. You may hate that. That's perfectly fine with me. I don't care. But that was kind of fun. But I appreciate everyone who has stopped by, who has hung out, and who is going to be watching later on. I do got to go. Got another meeting here later. But we'll do that. I appreciate all of you who have continued to support the show. If you missed my post, we were able to donate $150 to 3 different animal shelters around the country. The Pittsburgh Humane Society, one of them was one that Chris Vikings recommended, the Animal Humane Society. I forget the full name. Donated $50 there. And then the Hamilton County Humane Society, which is Cincinnati. So 3 really good organizations that I liked, and Piper's Picks was able to help us donate to those groups. So please continue to support the show. 75% of regular viewers are not subscribed. So if you think you're subscribed, make sure to check, because you might not be. And if you aren't, that means you're missing out on the latest NFL news. So we have a lot of fun here on the channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't do that. And then, of course, the merch link is in the bio. So make sure to check that out if you want to buy a sticker like this. We got the Piper's Picks sticker. If you want to buy just a logo sticker, we've got that. We've got shirts. We've got hats. We got whatever you want. It's probably there. And if you want something and it's not there, let me know. You can either comment, email bullmoospodcast2@gmail.com, DM me on Instagram at nobuts_show, and I'll get it made. We'll get it figured out for you. So let me know what you thought down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything else. And until next time, as always, go do something nice for someone.